The free travel of Ireland having been lifted for about 2 months now, life feels somewhat normal once again. A high percentage of the recently unemployed have returned to the workforce and a fair amount of services, both public and private, have resumed. Hotels, retail stores, gyms and swimming pools have now had their doors open for more than 2 months, and most, but not all, have had at least somewhat adjusted to our new normal. We are free to visit our family and friends, and the whole thing is slowly inching its way towards becoming nothing more than an unpleasant memory. A memory that seems hazy and dreamlike, with many gaps in the actual memory due to the abundance of moments that weren't worth remembering. On a personal level, I'm very much over the whole thing. Life always seems to become very unnormal and then normal again after a relatively short period of time. It left me with many lessons related to the way I perceive both myself and the world around me. Lessons about what I want and do not want out of my life. I spent lengthy periods of time contemplating my own existence and my own mortality. I ruminated upon life, death, happiness, unhappiness, and the future, to name but a few. I found this time valuable to a certain extent. There were also many hard days when I craved the old life that I once thought to be uninspired and lacking in meaning. If you'll allow me to be self-indulgent for a few moments, I'll explain what frequently came to my mind over the period of lockdown. Number 1, the media is absolutely astoundingly awful for our mental health and our species as a whole. Do you remember those days in the early stages of the lockdown where you were absolutely glued to your phone or TV, eagerly and anxiously awaiting even the tiniest development or update about the progression of the virus? Awaiting that signal that spiked your cortisol and lulled you slowly into a state of utter anxiety. Now, not everyone reacted the same. There were some who took it gracefully, those who remained in a stoic state all throughout, but then you get folks like me who watched way too much news and ran out to panic buy frozen food before the imminent collapse of society as we knew it. And this is coming from somebody who actively attempts to avoid the news. I avoid it like it's a dodgeball that's hurtling towards my reproductive organs. I try to dodge it because it's bad for me. It's bad for my life. It fills my head full of junk mail, full of spam, too much in my inbox, so much so that I can't read the important emails, like emails about my own life, emails that remind me that even if I survive this virus, something is going to kill me anyway, emails that remind me that the media has turned this whole world into a stage. It has dramatised even the most minute of occurrences to an extent that has brainwashed us into accepting the media's main message, that the world is a scary and awful place and that people are crazy and dangerous. Every day there is a new inflammatory, sensationalist headline staring us in the face, a story that simply cannot be ignored, one that gets the world in a stir. A big deal in the news was once events such as 9/11 or the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now a celebrity split up makes the headlines and sells clicks and papers around the globe in hundreds of different languages and cities. All of it designed to get a strong emotional reaction from the people of Earth. From you. I oftentimes try to imagine what the world would be like had smartphones never been invented, and when I do this I see more conversations, more laughter, more presence and awareness of our imminent demise, along with a more carefree approach to life because of this awareness. I see more community spirit and empathy for all beings. Why do I see all this? Well, for this fantasy to work, I'm also imagining that nothing else was invented to take the smartphone's place, so everyone has a lot more time on their hands to think. Time to realise just how strange this life really is, how curious it is that anything even exists, how mind-boggling it is that there is something at all rather than nothing at all, how we're all just born without knowing how or why, and then we must go about making the best of our circumstances that we were born into. Some are born rich and some are born poor, and for either or in between, life is a journey that is so extremely personal for each individual. A journey that's difficult to navigate at the best of times and excruciatingly painful at the worst of times. Each person, for better or worse, sentenced to life on earth. This brings me to the second most prominent thought I mulled over during lockdown. The world desperately needs more empathy, and it needs it right now. If the pandemic wasn't thrilling enough to start the year off with, the Black Lives Matter movement surely whetted even the most insatiable appetite for drama. What a mental time we live in. Cities burned, and people were maimed and injured when George Floyd's life was ended by the police force. Racial tensions quite literally exploded. Quite frankly, America lost its mind. Individuals involved in the Black Lives Matter movement seem to only see others as for or against their cause. There was no in between. Had you expressed the opinion that not every police officer is racist, you were against the cause and you were fair game for ridicule, abuse and even assault. If you voiced the notion that Black Lives Matter groups burning down stores and small businesses wasn't the way to solve racism, you were against the cause. If you publicly spoke about the idea that it wasn't acceptable to throw bricks at the heads of police officers who had absolutely nothing to do with the death of George Floyd, you might have soon found one of those same bricks on a collision course with your cranium, along with the cheers from the crowd after it had made its impact. The failure and often refusal to try to find common ground with someone we deem to be against us or our cause is a big, big problem. The prominence of this behaviour online would suggest to me that we have much inner work to do as a species. Refusal to even acknowledge another's opinion or idea is very dangerous. Dismissal of that opinion without so much as a debate is a slippery slope to a 1984-esque dystopian future. Putting your fingers in your ear and saying la 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 is not going to solve any of the issues that we face, but that's for another video. What we need to realise and keep at the forefront of our minds is the fact that everyone has their own struggles. Everyone from the rich to the poor, the young to the old, black, white, male and female are carrying heavy burdens which are relative to them. The older I get and the more I get to know folks on a deeper level, the more I realise that the world is in the dire strait it's in because of unresolved trauma. A saying that I've picked up which I feel best conveys what I'm trying to get across is, one man's starvation does not negate my hunger. Just because someone else is living through more unfavourable circumstances than I doesn't mean that my problems are any less relevant. But this also works both ways. Just because I see others' problems as insignificant in the grand scheme of the world, this doesn't give me the authority to dismiss their gripes with life. When you understand that almost every human wants the same basic things in life such as safety, security, love and a roof to sleep under, it becomes a lot harder to hate. But we need to first understand this. We need to understand that every opinion is formed through every life experience up until the point that the opinion is expressed and is therefore valid. I'm not saying every opinion is correct. There are obviously some bad apples in our midst, but listening to the opinions of bad apples is the first step to understanding why they think and feel the way they do and finding common ground in the hopes of reaching a peaceful resolution to the problem. Fighting discrimination with discrimination is not going to move us forward. This can also circle back to the media. The media is constantly pumping out divisive and inflammatory articles. Articles that pit one group against the other. Blacks against whites. Police against civilians. Donald Trump against the world. Liberals against conservatives. All of this only breeds hate. It breeds suspicion and intolerance. Instead of allowing yourself to be hypnotised into hating a certain group of people, recognise that you are being hypnotised. It is good to keep up with current events, but it is very, very detrimental to your own mental health to become addicted to the news. Instead, try to focus on your own life and what you can do to better yourself. This brings me to the third and final thought I'd like to share today. The best thing you can do for the world is to try and improve yourself constantly. Always try to move forward. Always seek to become the best version of yourself. Always seek to become the truest version of yourself. Realise that the news and the media is selling you a version of humans that is not realistic. The media does not want you to love yourself, because if you love yourself, you wouldn't buy any of the products that they push upon you constantly. Instead, we should recognise that as a human being, you are inherently imperfect. But do not allow this realisation to curtail your own betterment. Your interaction with others has the power to lift or lower their state of being. If enough people become aware that they possess the superpower to influence the state of others and use it for the good, well then this could influence the state of the world, one interaction at a time. A saying I once heard is, tend to the part of the garden that you can touch. Instead of worrying about all of the bad that is going on in the world out there, which you will have easy access to thanks to the media, tend to the part of the garden that you can touch. Tend to your community. Tend to your home. Tend to your partner, your parents, your pet. Tend to everything in your immediate vicinity, in your immediate environment. Do this in the hopes that others are also doing the same. As cringy and as cliched as it sounds, it seems that the best way to change the world is to change yourself first. Be a reflection of what you would like to see in the world. Everything I have just said may make me sound like I am sitting on a high horse looking down and judging and offering advice that is unsolicited. I can assure you that I have many faults and I'm continually working on myself. I'm always trying to spot errors in my ways of thinking and looking at the world and in dealing with others and trying to correct them. Thank you very much for listening to this. It means a lot that you got the whole way through my meandering rant. If you like what you heard, please leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. There will be more videos to follow. Thanks again. Peace.